Welcome. Good afternoon. I am Mary Jiang, president of the Oakland Rotary Club. Founded in 1908, we are the third oldest club of some 36,000 Rotary clubs in over 200 countries around the world. We are a diverse community of 270 business, professionals, and community leaders who unite to serve our local and international communities through a commitment to service above self. Thank you for joining us this afternoon online. For over 114 years, we have welcomed Rotarians and guests to our club meetings. But for those who are attending online, if you're a visiting Rotarian or a guest of a Rotarian, please enter your name in the chat box located at the center at the bottom of the screen so that we can recognize you in a few minutes. If you have comments or want to ask a question of the speaker, please use the chat box. We recommend you view today's meeting using speaker view located in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Now, for a thought of the day, I welcome Rotarian Anna Marie Jones.
Hello, everyone. I am very excited to give the thought for the day. In honor of this being Mary's first Zoom meeting, and in honor of the fact that along with this being President Mary's first day, we're having our fabulous speaker beamed to us from Morocco. My thought for the day is that all of us have the power to welcome the world to Oakland Rotary. And please remember, your guests can be anywhere in the world. Your guests can be neighbors and friends and colleagues, and it would mean the world to them, I believe, to be invited to such a group and to see wonderful speakers and to be part of this community. So the thought is, welcome the world to Oakland Rotary. Do it with zeal, and when you're on screen, remember to give it your Rotarian best, even though we can't be together. Make some noise with your hands and really have a great time as we bring the world to Oakland Rotary. And now, if you would please join me for the thought for the day.
No, the vision.
I mean, the vision statement, correct. All righty, everyone together. Together
we see a world where
people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities and in our towns. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anna Marie, for that wonderful, inspiring thought for the day and the vision statement. Okay, visiting Rotarians. So Rotary members from around the world are always welcome to visit our club. Past district governor and past president Ed Genlin. Do we have any visiting Rotarians and guests online?
Well, President Mary, I am very disappointed to have to report that my list of visiting Rotarians and guests that checked in is empty right now. So welcome to anybody who I might have missed or who didn't check in, but nobody checked in.
Okay.
My bad. I'll make sure to do that next time.
So yeah, visiting Rotarians or visiting guests, if you wanted to still continue to put it on chat, we can come back and recognize you later. Thank you for everybody for joining us. You're always welcome to join us at a future event or club meeting. Robert Kidd, I understand you have some announcement to tell us, two in fact.
Well, yes, I do, Mary. Thank you very much. Two very important dates coming up. The first one is August 28th, Oakland Coliseum, Oakland A's versus the New York Yankees. Almost as important, at 11 o'clock that day, the Rotary pregame tailgate begins in the park lot right outside the Coliseum. We will be featuring not hot dogs, not hamburgers, but paella. Yes, of course, this is Oakland Rotary. Paella, presented by Concha Gaitan, the spouse of our beloved past President Dudley. And did I mention the open tailgate bar hosted by that legendary barmaster, past President Dudley. Tailgate at 11, first pitch at 1. Please RSVP on the Rotary Club's event calendar. So that's item number 1. Second important date, Saturday, August 27th, the day before the baseball game. To prepare you for the baseball game, we're going to be hosting a 9-mile hike through Chabot Regional Park. This is the final leg of the epic Rotary hike that began in Richmond back in February, proceeded down the spine of the East Bay Hills, and now terminates in Castro Valley. 8:30 in the morning, RSVP on the Rotary Club's event calendar website. Madam President, I cede my time back to you.
And thank you. Oh, I do want to add for the baseball game, I understand they're also going to have a taco bar.
Did I mention the taco bar?
We want to make sure you guys are well fed.
What else did I miss? What else did I miss, President Mary?
No, I think you did very well.
Okay,
All right.
back to you.
Thank you. Bruce, Nye, I understand you have an announcement of an upcoming event. Take it away from the Community Service Committee.
And I'll do my best to go fast. Aside from the fact that sadly, I won't be able to go to the 2 events just announced because I have a family issue I have to deal with. I will tell you that one of my thrilling experiences has been the volunteer services that we've provided activities involving helping to provide food for the homeless and the hungry, as well as location repairs and maintenance and other services. And our fellow Rotary member, Daniel Cheng, who is part of the Community Service Committee, organizes these great events. And I am excited to tell you that on Saturday, August the 20th at 8:30 a.m., Oakland Rotary is putting on the St. Vincent de Paul Service Day here in Oakland. We will be helping to prepare meals for the homeless and the hungry. St. Vincent de Paul serves about 500 meals a day and shelters about 50 homeless people each night. This is going to feel really, really good when we do it. I encourage you all to register and join it for Saturday, August the 20th. On the Rotary website, you go to the calendar, which you're all familiar with, I'm sure. You go to August 20th, click the, pardon me? Oh, all right, click August 20th, click the event there, and you'll go to the registration forms and the instructions, which you can fill out and send in. So I say, let's all of us do it to the extent that we can, okay? Seeing lots of members at a service day event is really, really great. So thanks to all of you who can do it.
Thank you, Bruce. Just to let you know, I have signed up. So I hope my fellow Rotarian will do the same thing. All right. The last couple of meetings, I have been telling you about Mary's fun facts. Today, I'm going to do something different. It'll be Mary's trivial fact. So today is August the 4th. About 77 years ago, a Japanese engineer, Tsusumu Yamaguchi, was in Hiroshima for a business trip for his employer, Mitsubishi Industry, on August 6, 1945, 2 days from today, August 4th. This just happened to be the day the United States dropped an atomic bomb on the city.
On God, I don't care.
He was less than 2 miles from ground zero.
Dude, that was so goofy. Oh.
He heard the drone of the aircraft overhead. Looking
Mary,
for,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we might have a spammer on the call, and I think he needs to be removed by whoever's the administrator. The name is Joe Marmer, M-A-R-M-H-E-R. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Mary. Please take it back.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, take it by Mary.
Shall I continue? Should I?
I just removed Joe.
Yes, please. Please continue.
All right. Okay, well, looking here, okay, so he was less than 2 miles from ground zero. He heard the drone of an aircraft overhead. Looking skyward, he saw an American P-29 bomber soar over the city and drop a small object connected to a parachute. Suddenly, the sky erupted in a mushroom with a blaze of blinding light. He somehow survived with severe burn injuries on his face and hand and took the train home to Nagasaki. Then, on August the 9th, 1945, despite his injuries, he went to work when another atomic bomb hit that city. Yamaguchi saw a white flash and dropped to the ground before the shock wave shattered the office windows and sent broken glass and debris careening through the room. I thought the mushroom cloud had followed me home from Hiroshima. He later told a newspaper, the Independent Carrier. For the second time in 3 days, Yamaguchi had the misfortune being within 2 miles of a nuclear explosion. For the second time, he has been fortunate enough to survive. Can you imagine surviving 2 atomic bombs? His guardian angel must have been working overtime. Yet, unlike so many victims of radiation exposure, Yamaguchi slowly recovered and went on to live a relatively normal life. He served as a translator for the US Armed Forces during the occupation of Japan, and later taught school before resuming his engineering career at Mitsubishi. Yamaguchi died on January 4th, 2010, at the ripe old age of 93 years old. So I just when I read that, I was so in awe of the miracles that sometimes happen to us, and let hope that we never have another nuclear explosion anywhere in the world. Peace to all of us. Thank you. Okay, so that was my, not a fun fact, it was a trivial fact. Okay, committee updates. As you know, the Rotary committees are the backbone of our organization and the key to the success of all presidencies, including mine. Today, I'd like to invite Isaac Koss-Rees, Chair of the Communication and Public Image Committee, to tell us some information about his committee and the importance of social media. Take it away, Isaac.
Sure,
Hey,
thanks.
Isaac, before you start, one question. Did you have a slide to go with this? I didn't go through the deck ahead of time.
Just
You.
on the
Okay.
screen, that's all.
I'm gonna pin you and give you full screen here.
All right, thanks so
Go for
much. Thank you, past President Dudley and President Mary. So great to be part of this meeting today, a special one for me for obvious reasons. I'm excited to share kind of my history with the Public Image and Communications Committee and how we do our work. I think it was past President Sherris who invited me a few years ago to not only join the committee, but take over as president of what's called the Public Image and Communications Committee. So what do we do? I think of us as we're really stewards of the brand of the Rotary Club of Oakland #3, which, as we all know, is a unique and special one. Third oldest in the world of 35,000 clubs with over 1 million members worldwide. And we know that ours is probably most likely in true Oakland fashion, the most diverse in multiple ways. Your presidency being a first, Tom's presidency next year being another first, and so many firsts along the way in terms of our special brand. And so we get to promote that, but honoring the history of Rotary International and its brand, but giving it a special life here in Oakland. To do that, we try to be storytellers. We talk about the deep history that we've had in the community, the many civic projects that we've been part of that we still enjoy today, because that helps remind us how we're connected to those who came before us, as well as those who will come after. We talk about the rewarding service work that was mentioned earlier, that is actively happening every year, every month, almost every week, really. If not collectively by the Rotary, certainly individuals within Rotary are stepping up and giving back, whether that's feeding the hungry, mentoring and providing internships to youth, raising money for important efforts, both at home and abroad. We tell the story of the camaraderie and civic connections that come from serving together, but also from adventuring together with the High Adventure Committee, from tailgating together at the A's games, and of course, gathering consistently for these Oakland Rotary Civic Thursdays. So how do we do this? We gather every week virtually. We kick off our weeks together and we talk about what's going on in Oakland, what's going on in the club, and how do we weave those all together. The technical term for it is we try to provide a vibrant omni-channel presence for the Rotary Club. And as anyone who's tried to communicate something in this day and age and cut through the cacophony of information out there, it's a lot of work. We manage the website, email, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, earned media, and special event promotion. So to ensure it's sustainable, we divvy it up by channel and we have leads for each one. So no one's volunteering too much time and everyone gets to be involved and contribute what they're best at. So what might you be best at? We'd love to have a couple more committee members join us this year. I want to welcome our recent committee member, Kathy Adams, who signed up earlier this year and has been a phenomenal contributor. Thank you, Kathy, both a new member and new committee member. Also, I think we are bringing some younger talent onto the team, thanks to Keith Uriarte on our committee for recruiting LaTory Howard, also known as Renea Webb's daughter, who is a longtime Rotarian and is going to be joining our committee as well. And so we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me by email or phone and let me know if you'd like to join our committee. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll continue.
Thank you, Isaac, for that wonderful committee update. So Isaac, at this time, I would like to ask you to introduce today's speaker, which happens to be your famous little brother, right?
Very much not little, very much my bigger brother, my older brother, and someone I'm proud to look up to, and someone who's influenced my life in many wonderful ways. And will now share a bit about how he's influenced hundreds of millions of lives across the world through his newfound role as a social media influencer in China. So without really much more intro than that, you can find out a lot about him on the web, and he'll share a bit today. My brother, Jonathan Koss-Reed.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. As he said, I am in fact his older brother, not his little brother. I'm the big brother. Even though everybody mistakes him for the older brother because he looks older and tougher. So this is an interesting experience for me. I haven't spoken too much to people in the United States, but I do a lot of interviews about China, in part, I think, because China is a super big topic, right? It's so complex and it's so hard to digest and sort of understand what's going on in China. And I think that my story sort of allows people like sort of a pathway into China. I mean, I don't know how much Isaac has told you about what I do, but I went to China when I was like 23 or 24 in 1996. Just out of a sense of romantic adventure. I wanted to live a life like a character in a novel. And so I had taken some Chinese classes and I just left. I thought I might stay there for a year or two. And then I fell into a role in a movie, a Chinese movie. And that's what I have done for the last 20 years, is play white guys in Chinese movies. I'm the token white guy of Chinese cinema. So, and that has given me, a really interesting vantage point to watch the incredible changes that happened, in China since 1996 all the way to 2022. I've done all kinds of crazy things. I've shot movies in Chinese Siberia in negative 45-degree weather. I've stood on the lip, like looking over the caldera of a volcano that was the second or third biggest eruption in human history, and divides China and North Korea. I've been to every Chinese province. I've shot close to 200 movies in China. I've watched how the scripts evolve, how sort of Chinese people's conception of the United States and of Europe and the rest of the world have changed over time. Now I'm going to try to keep this talk short. I think I only have like half an hour anyway, but I'll try to keep it extra short because what I find is everybody wants to know a different thing about China. And so I'll try to leave more time for people's questions. Okay, if people have any. So anyway, the sort of trajectory of my career was making movies in China, and then recently, and this is the thing, I think the reason Zach brought me over here was suddenly and accidentally, when I was almost 50, I became a social media influencer in China, which is a strange thing for a 50-year-old to be, or so I thought. And it turned out I was wrong. And so I want to just share 3 stories with you about social media in China to sort of illustrate what China is like, and also and also like sort of what it's like to be a, you know, an older social media personality. So the first, and these are through Chinese social media. Okay, I'll tell you 3 stories. I saved 100 lives. It's a big deal to me. In 48 hours, I sold almost $1 million worth of a product. And I got to live a childhood dream with American Major League Baseball. So the first story is about suicide. Okay, most of my followers on social media are above 35, and over 80% of them are men. Okay, and so I talk a lot about things like midlife crisis and depression and parenting, which it's a really unique niche because there aren't a lot of social media influencers who talk about that kind of thing. And so I did a post about suicide, and you know, I don't know how many people are in this group right now, but we've all had dark times in our lives, right? And I talked about one of those dark times, and I talked about the advice that people gave me that took me out of that mental space, okay, on a social media post. And I thought it would do okay, and it ended up going viral and getting, I thought it would do maybe like 20,000, 30,000 views. It ended up going viral and doing like 20 million views, okay? And I came home to close to several tens of thousands of messages, but I went through them carefully, and at least 100 messages that said, hey, I was going to kill myself today. And I took a walk to prep to do it. And I came back and I opened my phone one last time and I saw your thing, your post about the advice that you got when you were feeling that way. And I took it to heart and I didn't do it. That's a heavy load to bear. Like, what do you do with that, right? Like, how do you then go and like have lunch after that? And the reason that I wanted to tell you that story, right, is number one, social media can have value, okay? But two, we're in the United States, we're used to always having access expensive access, but access to mental health care, okay? With no stigma really attached to it. And Chinese people simply don't have that. Chinese people, to use that old quote, there are so many Chinese people that live lives of quiet desperation. Okay, that's the first story. I'm looking there. Okay, all right. The second story is I do ads. Like I have on Chinese TikTok, which is called Douyin, I have about 5.5 million followers. Okay, and because of that, advertisers come to me and I do ads for them. And one of the ads that we did was for cockroach poison. And one of the guiding principles that we have when we do ads is that people want clear explanations. But just to give you a sense of how big the Chinese market is, and I know, you know, you're businessmen and you know that, but we did the way Chinese TikTok works is you sell a product and people can just buy it directly from your account. Like they just slide left and then they can buy it. In 48 hours, selling cockroach medicine, we did, we moved almost $1 million, a hair under $1 million of product in 48 hours, just from my account. And the third story is the NBA has been very successful in China, and Chinese people are really into basketball. And so just a few weeks ago, Major League Baseball invited me to London, where Major League Baseball had organized an exhibition game. And for the Chinese audience, I got to explain why baseball was a better sport for China than soccer or basketball. And I got to do batting practice with a bunch of Major League Baseball stars. So it was really cool. And I mean, none of us in here are really young, right? Some of us are, but most of us have grown up already, and we kind of tend to look down on social media. And having, because I speak Chinese and having been able to do it, it's given me a new perspective. So I guess those are the things I wanted to say. Let me get to your questions. Okay,
maybe before we take questions, we do have a couple videos to share.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I'm sorry. My brother reminded me. So just to give you a sense of what I do, what my movies look like, and what my social media looks like, we're going to play 2 of my movies and then 2 of my most popular posts. So will I have time to introduce them more?
Sure.
Yeah, you have time. I give you some extra time.
Okay, thank you. So the first one we're going to see it's from a zombie movie, and when it was released, it was the 3rd or 4th highest box office ever in China, and I play a one of the zombie helpers, like a zombie wrangler. So go ahead, you can take it away.
Jonathan, I'm going to ask Peter here a second. Peter, are you going to do this or there we go?
That's not me.
你听明白了吗？哎，妹妹，你什么意思啊？哎呀，给我看你的漂亮眼！啊，干嘛呢？干嘛呢？放开我兄弟！从现在开始，每家存一个坑，我就挖他一颗牙，直到整到补血为止。如果天黑前还找不到，我就执行违约条款。什么违约条款呀？一人一个坑。 这一球！老谢，咱合同里边有这条吗？ 签的什么操蛋合同？
喝醉愉快。
别急，别急，别急啊！
So that's that's me acting. The next clip, is it's also a funny story, but I did a movie with Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson turned out to be a super cool guy. Like we sat and talked about, you know, Montessori schools, you know, for like 2 hours. He's like, oh yeah, you know, my daughter, she goes to a Montessori school. I'm so happy it allows her to, you know, express herself artistically. He was a super cool guy. I'll try to tell like the shortest story about Mike Tyson possible. I was trying to show off, you know, with Mike, right? Like show him that I understood stuff. Because I was nervous hanging out with him. And I said, oh yeah, you know, like Mike, how come you never became a boxing trainer, you know? And then I gave him my own answer. I was like, oh yeah, because, you know, often like it's the mediocre you know, players or boxers who become trainers, but like the true geniuses, you know, they don't have to think about it, so they don't become trainers. And he said, nah, that's not the real reason that the mediocre players become the coaches. I was like, oh, okay, what's the reason? He's like, yeah, because, you know, the mediocre players, they're living their dreams through you. I was like, oh, Mike. Anyway, so here's the clip of me acting with Mike Tyson. I play the head of the Hong Kong police.
And when my boss is unhappy, I am unhappy. So, for the time being, all this nefarious vice and corruption that you so love to engage yourself in, you'll have to take a hiatus. Otherwise, Franco, I can't protect you.
Whatever you say.
Yes. Well, Frankie, these chats are always a pleasure. Cheerio.
That took like 2 days to shoot. So that's me with Mike Tyson. Just such a cool guy. So the next two clips that I'm going to show you are, the first one is my very first viral social media clip. Okay, I started a social media account kind of accidentally. And one day I did a post about how I learned how to speak Chinese. And my Chinese is really good. I mean, my Chinese is good enough that on the phone, you can't tell that I'm a white guy. People just think I'm Chinese. And I have a really heavy Beijing accent, which people think is funny. So I did a post about that and it went crazy. In 24 hours, I gained 1 million followers. 24 hours. It broke the record for Chinese TikTok for the fastest account growth ever. So here's, you don't have to watch the whole video, but here is the, a portion of that video, my first viral video.
我看了网友们的留言，很多人问我中文为什么说的那么好？简单回答就是脑子好。最早我为什么学的中文？那是90几年，那时候没有人学中文。在我那个大学，我们必须得学1年的外语，我不愿意学，我觉得，怎么回事啊？全世界都会英文啊，我干嘛学一个外语啊？结果
that's probably enough since nobody understands what I'm talking about. But you just get the sense of what I do. That's most of what my social media is. It's just like, me, this old guy sitting there talking about stuff. The second clip, and that went crazy. I mean, that's what kind of started my social media, presence in China as an influencer. The second clip was the one that went most viral in China, It's a clip. My daughter, Roxanne, came to me one day and she said, Papa, I'm going to get a tongue ring. And I said, okay, let's talk about it. And I did a post about it. And this is the post about my daughter wanting to get a tongue ring.
大家好，我是曹操。我可爱女儿 Rox 14岁了，入了叛逆期了。现在呢，想穿个蛇环。我这个爸爸该怎么办？我这个在美国长大的，在中国住过20多年，现在住在欧洲的这个爸爸有什么办法？我肯定不想他做，我不能说不行不行，不能做不能做，哈哈哈哈，不能做不允许，因为这只能让他更想做，那不成的。其实我也可以说，去吧。
Okay, I mean, again,
走自己的路。
nobody will understand what I'm saying, but so that's me. I mean, that's the social media me. And that post, again, we didn't think it would do so well. It's just, I mean, it's just a dumb story about, my daughter wanting to get a tongue ring. And we thought it would get maybe 30, 40,000 views. And it ended up, I know this sounds crazy, but this is China, right? It ended up topping out at about a little north of 100 million views.
Wow.
100 million views. That's like closing in on 1% of the world population. So no, she didn't get the tongue ring. No.
All right, with that, President Mary, do you want to handle questions?
I
I
can
can.
ask you. Do you want to ask the question?
Mary, why don't we let Isaac handle it?
Yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of chat questions here.
Well, that's what Isaac's watching.
Yeah,
chat.
I'll start. Credit goes to those who asked first. No offense, but I'll start there with, I think Ken Richardson came in with 2 quick questions. Are you fluent in Mandarin, and do the Chinese people you have become acquainted with did they expect China to invade Taiwan?
Okay.
Or do they expect China to invade Taiwan?
Right. So I'll answer the first question. I am fluent in Mandarin. Like I said, I speak it really well. Well enough that I don't people just assume I'm Chinese. In fact, it's a hassle when I call an Uber, because I have to, when the Uber driver calls, like, hey, I'm downstairs, I have to say, oh yeah, I'm a big nose, blue eye, white guy. So you know. And he's like, what? Like, yeah, you see a white guy? That's me.
And to give context to that, there's not even just 2 languages in China. Like, roughly how many different languages are there?
Oh yeah, I guess yeah. So a lot of people have this idea that there's a co-equality between like 2 Chinese languages, one called Mandarin and one called Cantonese, and that's not true. There's one Chinese language which is Mandarin, which is the language of China, and then there are regional dialects. There Shanghainese, Sichuanese, Hunanese, and Cantonese being one of them. Cantonese just happened to reach a larger, more important status in the rest of the world because people from that region happen to immigrate to a lot of other countries. But within China, it's just one of many regional dialects. It's not even the biggest one.
And then do you want to touch the second question about China and Taiwan?
No.
Okay. Second question, how long have you been living in China, and how has it made you a better person? Would you ever live in the US again?
Okay, how has living in China made you a better person? There's an old Chinese saying about people who have never sort of left where they come from. And Chinese, the phrase, the old saying is "Jingdi zhiwa," a frog at the bottom of a well. The frog at the bottom of the well, he looks up at the sky and he thinks he has no concept that there's a much bigger sky. All he sees is this tiny little circle of sky, and he thinks that's the whole world. And so it's made me a better person in 2 ways. Okay, number one, seeing more of the world and understanding more of the world, just almost by definition is going to make you a better, more tolerant, more understanding person. Okay, that's number one. Number two, okay. Many of us think that we grow up we grow up without any prejudices. Okay, you know, if we're good-hearted, liberal-minded, you know, non-racist people, we think that we grow up absolutely without privilege, or sorry, absolutely without any our own privilege. Okay, and going and living in another country where you don't speak the language well, okay, and where you look different from everyone else, really makes it really it gives you a sense of what it means to go to another country, to be a different person, and to be treated as stupid, because just because you don't speak the language well, and people use the color of your skin as a proxy for all of these, you know, sort of characteristics that they place on you. Not to say that my experience is the same as everyone else who does that, but it's sort of maybe the beginning of understanding. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm going to guess that the next question you don't want to answer, and in so answering may answer, which is, I'd be interested in hearing whether you have to navigate the PRC's restrictions, quote unquote, on monitoring of social media, and if so, what that's like.
I'll tell you what it's like. It's like me not answering that question.
Okay, moving along. Australia and Japan have a robust foreign exchange student program, which has led to greater relations. Do you think all nations should encourage high school students to spend at least 1 year in another country? Do you think it would prompt better understanding in international relations among countries?
Yeah, but indirectly. It's not like you're going to be friends with some country, you know, because you went there. But it does give you the most important perspective it gives you is that people who live in different countries are essentially exactly the same as we are. They speak a different language, they look different, but they're essentially exactly the same. You know, they want to go out to nice dinners, they want their kids to go to good colleges, you know, they want to start businesses. They're essentially exactly the same. And it is very hard for people who've never been to another country to truly believe that in their hearts. And one of the reasons a lot of the early leadership of China was so good, okay, especially people like Deng Xiaoping, was because Deng Xiaoping did that. I mean, Deng Xiaoping was an exchange student in France for many years. And so he and a bunch of he and kind of like the people who he brought into positions of leadership, you know, when he came to power, they all had lived for extensive periods out of China, mostly in France. And so they knew how Europe worked, they knew how the West worked, a lot of them spoke the languages, and they had a very strong sense of China's position in the world, what it was good at, what it wasn't, and a sense, and again, just that important sense that you know, people in Europe were just like people in China, spoke a different language and looked different.
Let's take now a couple of fun questions, and then I have a feeling President Moore, you're probably coming up on time.
Yeah, you know, another 5 minutes.
Okay, so from CJ, I understand that you've often been cast as a villain. What was the craziest one?
Well, I'll give two answers to that question. Number one, I get asked that question a lot, like as if I only play villains in China. I actually played fewer villains than I played good guys. Playing villains was never the problem. The problem was always playing stupid people. Because in China, there's this sort of conception of the world that Chinese people are the smartest people in the world, and people from other countries are stupid. And so I very rarely was I a criminal mastermind, just because that's not how Chinese people envision, foreigners as masterminds. They envision them as foolish bumblers. And so that's number one. Like I never had to fight against playing villains. I just didn't play very many. I had to fight against playing foolish bumblers. However, I did play some funny villains. The funniest one was probably the plot was like the elevator pitch was but people can't have children anymore, and then they don't know why, and then the aliens come and they're like, oh yeah, we know why, because you've been infiltrated by vampires who are also aliens. and humans are like, well, what do we do? And the good aliens are like, well, the vampires, they came to Earth on a spaceship 1 million years ago. So you have to go back in time and kill them. And we're like, how? And they're like, well, we have this time machine. You can do that. You can use our time machine. So a bunch of commando scientists go back in time and into caveman times and just start blowing away caveman, vampire, aliens.
We'll have to send a pic or clip of that movie as a follow-up.
And I was the bad scientist on that, and I end up I turn into a vampire because I get bitten by a caveman space alien, and I get shot in the end too.
Okay. Next, we have from Linda Hamilton. Along with your social media influencing, will you continue your acting career in China indefinitely?
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, you get older, you act older parts, right? And in fact, I enjoy acting older parts more than I do younger parts, because I used to play, back when I was young and handsome, I would play one character again and again, which is like the rich American businessman who comes to China and falls in love with a Chinese girl, and he pursues her for whatever, 92 minutes. And she's torn, but in the end, she makes the right choice and sticks with her Chinese boyfriend. And I played that, maybe 30 times in 30 different movies. Got pretty tired of it. And now that I'm playing like generals and bosses and stuff, not only do I not have to play that stupid part anymore, but the locations that I shoot in are much more comfortable. Big boss's office, first class, palace. So what was the question again?
Will you continue acting?
Oh yeah, right. And so I can act until I'm 82 or whatever. I like China. I feel very comfortable there. To answer an earlier question, I feel much more comfortable than I do in the United States. I've lived there longer than I've lived in any other place in my life. I speak the language fluently. People know me. I have more friends there than anything else. And so, yeah, absolutely, I will. Right now, COVID makes it difficult to get back. You have to, for a long time, you had to do a 2-week quarantine. Now it's, 3-week quarantine. Now it's down to like 2 weeks. But after COVID, I'll start going back and acting again. Yeah.
Thank you. President Mary, we're at 1:19. I'm happy to maybe ask a closing question, or just we could wrap it up if you'd like.
Yeah, why don't you ask a closing question?
Jonathan, thank you for joining us from Morocco, from Marrakesh. And
I had to fly back yesterday from Marrakesh. So I'm in Barcelona right now, having paella.
There you go. And I did wear I wore the shirt that I got in Marrakesh. One advantage of having a globetrotting movie star brother is that you pick up interesting things from all over the world. And that's, that for me is what Rotary is about. I'm curious, just your final thoughts on today, Jonathan, and if you have any closing thoughts that you almost always have for an interesting group of people like this.
Closing thoughts. I always hate those open-ended questions. Well, I'll close with the thought that I always have, which is people should come to China. It's 20% of the world, and we forget that it's not just 20% of the population of the world. Okay. It's 20% of the mental space of the world. It's 20% of the philosophy of the world. A huge percentage of our sort of Western philosophy, right? It comes from very, very, very small populations in Greece and in Rome and in England. And over there, like in this other space, right? You have this enormous, complicated, very rich other way of viewing the world that's richly supported by an incredibly dense body of writing and philosophy. And none of us know anything about it. Okay. And we should, because both just out of intrinsic respect for another important culture, but also because it's already been shaping the world we live in and will shape it even more, in the years to come. And so we would do well to learn how Chinese people view the world.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for this wonderful presentation and profound information that you have provided us. And, I'm glad that you got a chance to experience living in China for 20 years. I myself was born in China. Came over when I was young, but I still have a tie to the mother country. And that's something that I'm glad that you appreciate it and encourage other people to travel to China.
What city were you born in?
I was in Guangzhou.
Oh, you're in Guangzhou.
Yeah, I'm a Guangdong Cantonese.
Guangdong.
Right, sure. And so anyway, for today, Oakland has made a promise to every child in our city to provide them the resources they need to succeed in the higher education and career of their choice. In recognition of your presentation today, Oakland Rotary will make a donation in your name to the Oakland Promise to support its kindergarten to college program for every child in our city. And thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Okay, I'm going to ask about bell ringers. Do we have any bell ringers today? A bell ringer is a generous tax-deductible donation of $100 to our Oakland Rotary Endowment. If you wish to ring the bell, please put it in the chat and we will ring the bell. Okay, so Fred Morse said he'd like to ring a bell for Jonathan. Anna Marie says she'd like to ring a bell for Isaac and Jonathan. Is that 2 ring or 1 ring? At least 1. Okay, so thank you very much for your generous donation. Ruth Strofe, would you tell us about next week's speaker?
President Mary, I'd be delighted to tell you about next week's speaker. Next week, we're going to bring it back local. Next week, we're going to bring it back local, and we're going to hear from Karen Adams, the curator of the latest exhibit at the Oakland Museum, Hella Feminist. Mary, in your honor as the 14th female president of our chapter or of our club, we've asked Karen to come talk to us about all kinds of women doing all kinds of things in Oakland. If you get a chance, please take a moment and go see the exhibit. It's definitely a Rotary highlight that we'd love to see the Oakland Museum.
Thank you, Ruth. So, like before ending the meeting, I'd like to thank Anna Marie for the thought for the day, Robert for the baseball and hiking announcement, Bruce for the St. Vincent de Paul Community Service activity, Isaac for his community update and introducing his brother as this week's speaker, Jonathan for the fantastic presentation from, you said Barcelona right now?
I'm in Barcelona and then I'm flying to Birmingham tomorrow and then back to Marrakesh.
Okay, and the production team for producing this meeting despite the technical difficulty. I think it went well. So I look forward to seeing everyone at next week meeting back in the California Ballroom and online. So share, which means thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.